Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. This time, we're taking a closer look at something called Solution-Focused Brief Therapy.
Or SFBT for short.
Right, SFBT. Our source material is labeled Week 13, and looks like it's, course material from Algonquin College.
It seems to be.
Yeah. So we'll be focusing on a very practical understanding of this approach to therapy. Now, have you ever heard that saying, focus on the solution, not the problem?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, SFBT really takes that idea and runs with it.
It really does. It was developed by Insoo Kimberg and Steve DeShazer kind of like as a pushback against traditional therapy, sort of similar to the work of David Epstein, who you may be familiar with.
Okay.
So instead of digging into the past or putting labels on problems, it shifts the focus to identifying strengths and solutions for the future.
Okay, so it's all about looking ahead.
Absolutely.
And finding those strengths that maybe people don't even realize they have. That's a really interesting shift in perspective. So How does it actually work? Like, what makes it so different?
Well, at its heart, SFBT really believes that the client, you already have the resources and resilience you need to make positive change.
Okay.
And the therapist is just there to help you bring those strengths out and find solutions that are unique to your situation.
So the therapist is more like a guide.
Yeah, more of a guide.
Than like the holder of all the answers.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Can you give us like a concrete example of what that would look like?
Sure. Let's say you're struggling with, I don't know, maybe procrastination.
Oh, I know that one.
Yeah, who doesn't? A therapist using SFBT might start on with something called the best hopes question.
Okay.
And they might say something like, what are your best hopes for overcoming this procrastination and achieving your goals?
So instead of, focusing on the problem of procrastination, they're already looking at the positive outcome.
Exactly.
So it's like setting the intention right from the start.
Precisely. By putting your best hopes into words, you're already moving away from feeling stuck and starting to imagine a future where you're actually achieving those goals.
Yeah, just saying it out loud can be so powerful.
It really can.
So what happens next? Where do you go from there?
Well, once you have a clear vision of what you want to achieve, the therapist might then use the exception question.
Okay.
And this is all about exploring those times when the problem, like procrastination, wasn't as bad.
So looking for the times when it wasn't happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
they might ask, can you think of a time recently when you were more productive, maybe less likely to procrastinate? What was different about that situation?
Oh, I see. So instead of focusing on all the times you struggled, you're looking for those moments of success.
Yeah, those glimmers where you managed to break free from that usual pattern.
Like finding those little escape routes.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay, I like that.
And the Week 13 material actually gives a really great example of this technique in action.
Oh, tell me more.
It talks about a case study where a client was struggling with social anxiety, right? And the therapist used the exception question to uncover a time when the client actually felt comfortable and confident at a social gathering.
That's interesting. So what made that particular situation different? What did they discover?
Well, after thinking about it, the client realized that during that specific gathering, they were having a conversation about a topic they were really passionate about.
Oh, so it wasn't the gathering itself.
Well,
it was the conversation.
Yeah, and that allowed them to connect with others, on a deeper level, and they kind of forgot about their anxieties.
So finding a common interest, that point of connection, made all the difference.
It did. It just highlights how the exception question can help uncover strengths and resources that you might not even know you have.
I'm really starting to see how these techniques can create like a sense of possibility.
Right.
You start with a vision, and then you find evidence that it's actually achievable.
Exactly. It's all about building that foundation of hope.
Okay, so we've talked about the best hopes question and the exception question. What other tools are there?
Well, another really powerful technique is the scaling question.
Okay.
And this uses a simple scale of 1 to 10 to measure how you're doing.
Oh, like a progress bar in a video game.
Yeah, exactly like that.
I love that analogy.
It helps you move away from those all or nothing thoughts and start to see things in more shades of gray.
So instead of saying I'm a complete failure, you can say, well, maybe I'm at a 3 right now, but I'm aiming for a 5.
Exactly.
That feels much more manageable.
Right. It breaks down what feels like a huge problem into smaller, more achievable steps.
I love that. So practical.
And there's one more tool in the SFBT toolkit.
Ooh, tell me.
It's called the miracle question.
Miracle question. That sounds intriguing. What's that all about?
So the miracle question asks you to imagine a future where that problem you're facing has just vanished. It's not like, winning the lottery or anything. It's more about those everyday miracles, like waking up and things are just better.
So you're using your imagination to picture life without this specific problem.
Exactly.
I'm guessing the details are really important here.
Absolutely. In fact, the week 13 material even suggests prompting it like this.
Okay.
Suppose you woke up tomorrow morning and by some miracle, everything you ever wanted, everything good you could ever imagine for yourself had actually happened. What would be different? What would you notice first?
Wow, that's powerful. It's like you're using your subconscious to find solutions that your conscious mind might miss.
You got it. By stepping outside of the problem, you start to see new possibilities.
I can see how this could be a game changer. Like you're rewiring your brain to focus on solutions.
That's a great way to put it.
So we've got these 4 powerful tools: the best hopes question, the exception question, the scaling question, and the miracle question. How do they all work together? Like in a real session?
Well, remember, SFBT isn't like a rigid step-by-step process. It's more like a dance, a collaboration between the therapist and the client.
A dance, huh? So finding the right rhythm for each person.
Exactly. And the client is the expert in their own life.
So the therapist isn't telling them what to do.
Right. They're guiding the client to discover their own strengths.
That's a really empowering approach. So let's say someone is struggling with anxiety. How would an SFBT therapist approach that?
Okay, imagine a client comes in feeling totally overwhelmed by anxiety.
Okay.
The therapist might start with the best hopes question.
Right.
Maybe asking, if this session helps you in the best possible way, what will be different for you? What are your best hopes for managing this anxiety?
So again, focusing on the outcome.
Yes.
Not on the problem itself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then they might move to the exception question.
Okay.
Can you think of a recent time, even a brief moment, when you felt less anxious? What were you doing? Who were you with? Where were you?
So looking for those little breaks in the anxiety.
Right, exactly.
Like a detective searching for clues, but for the solution, not the problem.
That's a great way to put it, and those clues can be so valuable.
Because they show what works for you, even if it's just a small thing.
Exactly. It's all about recognizing those inner resources that you already have.
And wouldn't this be a good time for the scaling question? Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is the most anxious you've ever felt and 10 is completely anxiety-free, where would you say you are right now?
That's a great idea. The scaling question helps to move away from absolutes and see things more clearly.
Yeah, like switching from black and white to full color, you see all the shades in between.
Perfect analogy.
So what about the miracle question in this scenario?
The therapist might ask the client to imagine waking up one morning and the anxiety is just gone.
Just like that?
Yeah, and then ask, what would your day look like? How would you feel? What would you do differently?
So they're not just wishing it away, they're engaging with a future where it's gone.
Exactly. And those visualizations can be so powerful.
It's like creating a blueprint for a better life.
Yes. It helps you identify what's truly important to you.
This is amazing. It feels like SFBT gives you the tools to design your own solutions.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And the best part is, you can use these techniques outside of therapy too.
Wait, really? So we can all benefit from these ideas?
Absolutely. One of the coolest things about SFBT is its versatility.
Give me some examples. How could someone use these tools in everyday life?
Let's say you're having a conflict with a coworker.
Okay.
Instead of focusing on the past or blaming each other, you could try the best hopes question.
What's the best possible outcome here?
Exactly. How can we find a solution that works for both of us?
Let's looking for a win-win.
Right. Or imagine you're feeling creatively stuck.
Ugh, I know that feeling.
Instead of getting down on yourself, try the exception question.
Okay.
When was the last time I felt really inspired? What was different then?
So figuring out what sparked that creativity before.
Yeah. And for setting goals, the scaling question is super helpful.
Right, breaking it down into smaller steps.
And the miracle question isn't just for problems, it's for personal growth too.
Like envisioning your ideal future.
Exactly. The possibilities are endless.
This has been so eye-opening. SFBT is more than therapy, it's a whole new way of thinking.
It really is. And it's so accessible.
We've covered a lot, but I'm sure there's so much more to SFBT.
Okay.
So where can people go to learn more if they want to, dive deeper into SFBT?
Well, the week 13 material actually has some links right in the document.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, you can just click those and find more resources.
We'll include those in the show notes too, so everyone can check them out.
Definitely.
And maybe even try some of these techniques themselves.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to give it a shot. Even in small ways, it can really make a difference.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into solution-focused brief therapy, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought.
Okay.
How could using these techniques, even outside of therapy, help you face challenges in a more positive way?
That's a great question to think about. SFBT gives you such a practical way to shift your perspective, focus on what you're good at, and create the future you want.
It really has been a fascinating conversation.
I've enjoyed it.
Thanks so much for joining us.
It was my pleasure. And remember, keep those solutions in sight.
Yes. Keep those best hopes high. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into something equally interesting. Until then, happy exploring, everyone.